I'd like to welcome you all to this roundtable session, looking at the issue of critical infrastructure supply chain. How can this massive operational and cybersecurity challenge be addressed? We are joined by a fantastic panel of experts who I will introduce in just a moment. But I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that you can get involved in the session by posting any questions you might have in the session chat, and time permitting, we will be opening the floor to a Q&A session at the end of the discussion. So let me introduce you to the panel. Fantastic panel we have today. So first of all, we have with us Saltanat Mashirova. Saltanat is an advanced cybersecurity architect for Honeywell. She's based in Kazakhstan. Welcome aboard, Saltanat. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Jose, for having me here.
It's a privilege. Thank you for joining us. We have Rottenbach, who is an OT division manager for BDO. He's based in Israel. He has also tremendous experience, in working with an advisor and helping critical infrastructures. Welcome aboard, Rotem.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you aboard. We have Yossi Snet. Long time no see, sir.
Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay, so we have Yossi Snet. Yossi is kind of a legend in Israel. So he has tremendous experience securing, actually leading innovation and, security for critical infrastructures. He has been working over 20 years for Israel Electric. He's consulting the company right now. So welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you very much.
And last but not least, we have with us Deto Hassoun, sorry, Deto, mispronounce your name. So Deto Hassoun, he has been a friend of the observatory for quite a long time, supporting us, and more importantly, sharing his knowledge with the global community, okay, which is, is something really valuable, because at the end of the day, the industry is suffering. So Deto is the CISO of ICL Group. It's an industrial company, with 3 business lines operating all around the planet. The headquarters are based in Israel. So Deto might provide us a deeper background of the company. So with this fantastic panel, I am going to crack on with the discussion. So let me start with you, Yossi. Supply chain cyber risk in critical infrastructures became a significant threat. It was used in many cyber compromises last year. Could you describe your perception of the supply chain and its challenges?
Okay, I try to do it. So first of all, hello to all my colleagues. Part of them I know very well, and I'm happy to be with you, with Rota and Deto, and surely with Salanta. That is the first time I meet her. It's sophisticated question, because you can answer it in many things, and I don't think we have the ability and time to cover everything. So I will talk about the 2-3 points that, from my point of view, are very, very important. When we are talking in supply chain, about supply chain, what I am facing, you have first of all to define for yourself and to define what you mean when you say supply chain. Because if you enter the broad definition of supply chain, you will see that it covers almost everything. In our experience, first of all, we are talking about 3 different angles of supply chain. The first angle we call supply chain of us. Okay, because when you talk about supply chain, you usually say, okay, I'm organization and I have a chain of suppliers that are providing me with different services, products, everything. But don't forget, at least me as a utility, and I'm sure many other, if I'm talking about Honeywell or talking about ICL we are also suppliers to somebody else. So we also have to deal, when we talk about supply chain, we have to talk first of all what I call supply of mine. We have to deal about the security of our supply chain to our customers or to us. This is the first thing. The second thing is supplier for us. The supplier for us, this is the main issue that usually when dealing with supplier is actually how we are actually protecting the chain of different things that are coming to our company, if it is services, products, and anything. And here, we worked around it very, very much, and we have developed a kind of system and model that is based on I wouldn't say single parameter, but on a main parameter that we call a deterministic parameter that we call, first of all, it's the distance from the company. Okay, because if you look at the vendor, for example, I take even vendor of computers. If you buy a computer, in this computer, there are a lot of components that are coming from different vendors. So there is kind of layering of the system you buy. So we created a model that actually we can estimate deterministically the risk that is coming from the different layers. And in the vector, when we find a big risk, we are going into more deeper layers with our checkout. This is one system that we are using, very, very effective one, I think, and it gives you a real ability to decide until what layer or until what level you are checking your vendors and your sub-vendors and sub-vendors of some vendors and so on. Second issue with the supply chain for us is, again, and you heard me in the previous session, is the basics. We have to be aware about the basics when we are connecting to vendor, when we are dealing with vendor. What is the information that you are providing him? What is the information that he is providing to you? What are the ways of communication? How you protect the communication? You know, it's amazing, but even a super big supply projects are communicated sometimes with WhatsApp or something like this. So again, those things are the basics. And if you don't have the basic, you can invest a lot about them. And the third one is actually working and using different, and today we have different frameworks, standards that actually are giving more and more kind of credibility to different customers and to try to different vendors and to try to work mainly with them to actually provide, I would say, a benefit to vendor that he is accredited or pass some different measures as a vendor that is protected, that is aware about it. And the last one, and I will finish, is the supply chain of me. Supply chain of me, actually every person in the organization can hurt the supply chain or can create a fertile soil for adversaries via supply chain if we don't behave according to different standards, different information security, and different behaviors in the work and at this home. Okay, this is my short answer or long answer.
Thanks a lot, Yossi. Deto, what is your approach regarding supply chain? I mean, to reducing the threat. Be careful, Deto, you are mute. Okay.
You put me on mute.
I put you on mute, yeah, because we are recording the session.
It's okay, it's okay.
I don't want any noise.
I was sure that I was not on mute. Never mind.
No. I did that, and the goal at the end of the day is to create a beautiful asset, and this needs to be an educational asset that will be shared globally in the Cybersecurity Observatory. So that's. I don't want to be rude on that, but I would just want to avoid any noise, just for people to be able to understand perfectly everybody. So please, sir, go ahead.
I'm okay. So first of all, we declare third-party vendor that connect to OT, IT, and legal. Okay, we decided to take small part of the supply chain to deal with vendors that are connecting to the OT network, IT network, and legal. First of all. Secondly, we make mapping of all those vendors because it's a big company. We are all over the world, so we get around 150, 100, 180 vendors, only IT, OT, and legal that we have to deal with. Thirdly, we made the way of connectivity two-factor authentication with CyberArk, a second layer with monitoring each one of them that are connecting to our network. So I said IT, OT, and legal. Fourth issue that we spread about 600 laptops of ICL to those third party. And I will explain. What do I gain by this act? Of course, it's more money to my organization, but all the information of those vendors stays in my servers. Secondly, they are part of my security. They cannot do anything without my policy. And thirdly, if there is any event, I can make forensics and investigation. So any vendor that has activity more than 2 days a week regarding IT, OT, or legal, they get laptop of the company and they are connecting to our network with my laptop. Okay, ICL laptop. Third, fourth, or five, never mind. We have a service from BDO. It's one company in Israel, which Rotem is working also in the company, which give us a supply chain cover to the main 100 companies, which we are more important, more high risk. And they are making mapping, and they are making the every week report what is the level of this company. So it's a service, third-party service. And why I'm doing it, never mind if it's a BDO or any other company, but they're doing a good job. The main issue is to better the level of security of the company in which I'm working with. Because to know what is the level, it's one thing, it's very easy. Let's say 6, 7, never mind the grade until 10. But how I will make those companies to be 8, 9, 10, it's only by a process. And the process is done by the company that's giving me the service. So if they have lack of two-factor authentication, I ask them to, in 4 months, to have two-factor authentication. If they have something that should be encrypted, I give them 3 months to encrypt my information that they are keeping in their company. So BDO is looking at all the things are being done and report to me, and I have every month a meeting to see what is the level of these 100 more risky companies. And the last one is when I have any kind of ransomware in Israel or abroad, I always look if this company has any VPN connectivity with me. If there is any VPN connectivity, I cut the connectivity immediately. So one of the things that I'm doing, I'm always trying to see who is under attack in order to know if there is any connectivity. Of course, I get support from the state agencies and companies and intelligence companies, but always I want to know if any company that has any connection with me have any kind of ransomware event or any event in their mailbox 365. And last thing, when I have through the procurement, through the GPO, I made a letter in which they have to meet 27001 or any compliance of what I would like them to meet, and they are signing it in any new project and any project of the last 3 years. So the companies that are that should be third party, they have to meet 27001 in order to work with me. Short, but that's it for now.
Thank you very much, Deto. The next question goes to Saltanat. Why securing supply chain is a top priority?
Oh, thank you, Jose. It's a very good question. Yeah, supply chain security is a higher priority, I think, than 2 years ago. So we have different reasons for that. So one of the first reasons would be governments and then most companies, they moved away from internal customized development to external providers for commercial off-the-shelf products, who they found could produce more reliable and more innovative products and evolve those products more quickly and save the money, basically. So then companies and governments, they started to realize that they were opening themselves up to supply chain and product integrity risk and shifting to commercial vendors, which had not been of great concern when they made everything themselves in-house. So another reason would be when we are also seeing the increasing use of digital and technology supply chains to affect compromise at scale. So for example, SolarWinds or Code attacks, they're both examples of successful compromise of tools that can give an attacker access to a plethora of targets, I would say to tens or thousands of targets without taking the time to compromise each target individually. So if you compromise one supply chain, you can just get access to many organizations. And another reason would be that a lot of companies, specifically in critical infrastructure, when they think about security, they think about securing their networks, their software, digital assets against cyber attacks. They don't think about their supply chain. So supply chain, we have to think as a top priority because it's also vulnerable to security risks. In addition to that, many vendors, companies think that they can rely on vendors, but most vendors, they cannot be doing same security level as asset owners do. And another vendors could have remote access to critical server application and information, and the measures put in place to protect the control network from unauthorized access were not as robust as they should have been. So all of these reasons make supply chain cyber risk is very, very complicated. So in the supply chain risk, I would add that each member has a role to play, which makes supply chains is very challenging to mitigate. That's why I think now we have to focus on supply chain in the same level as we focus on security in our organization.
Perfect, thank you, Saltanat. Rotem, is it possible for technology to solve the supply chain problem?
The short answer is no. The long answer is absolutely not, because if we are trying to understand better the supply chain issue, and we're trying to understand and map it as Deto said, we're in BDO provide this kind of service. So we're trying to look at that as a MSSP type solution. I'm going to say that supply chain is a big issue related to all part of the company, to all part of the department, not specifically to security, not specifically to IT. This is can be talked about in legal, procurement, and even HR and other specific different type of department. I will say that in the end, when we talk about supply chain, we definitely talk about people. The technology is one side of the story, but the biggest side of this specific story is the people side. It's the people and the processes. And if we want to solve the problem as a whole, we cannot solve all the problem, but we can reduce the risk. But if we want to reduce risk in a big way, the big chunk of risk is to provide a better security in the people domain and in the process domain. Technology is important. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's in the boundaries. So we need to have much more people awareness and understanding and training and drilling the people themselves about what they need to do, how to contact third parties, how to manage the process of those specific third parties. That will actually explain here in detailed view about what they are doing inside of ICL regarding the protection of those specific targeted vectors from that specific support from the support. So we need to understand that we need to change the culture of the company to better handle that specific scenarios. And it's not going to be a one solution that someone can says, okay, let's implement that specific solution as a technical solution and everything going to be solved. We need to solve things related to remote access, third parties personnel that actually came to the factories. This is not technology. This is something related to people and processes. We need to better handling application across all the organization. If Salantas talk about SolarWind, for example, this is a good solution. There is a lot of different type of bad examples of different MSSPs that was attacked, and the attack was inherited to all the different companies that this company is connected to. There is communication vendors that provide communication between different parts of the organization that need to be addressed and understand what is their specific risk regarding our communication and the day-to-day work. And of course, last but not least, I'm gonna say the cloud connection, because many of the different type of processes that running inside of the plants, even if IT today, it's going to be connected to the cloud. If it's already connected or it's going to be connected, there is no factory that I'm seeing today that have no specific plan for next year or the next year. Even if they not know that they are going to connect to the cloud, they're going to purchase an equipment that do going to have a connection to the cloud. So they need to understand about that specific risk. So MSSP managed security service providers is a threat that need to be adjusted. This is one of the biggest threats, as I can see today, regarding companies, specifically medium and smaller than that. Big enterprises, it's much more managed. As Deto said, they are really hardened the security over there. But the medium, this is the biggest market that we have today. The MSSP is still controlling everything, and this is something that we need to solve. So people and process is way more important than technology. The technology can be verified that everything is in order. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful, Rotem. Let me go with you, Deto. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. OTBS IT supply chain. Cybersecurity approach. What should be the cybersecurity approach, to address those two clearly different supply chains?
Unmute. All I am speaking and saying is what I learned from Yossi Schneck. First of all, that to say is my Bible. Secondly, is to say that What we are doing in ICL is when we approach the OT side, it's a little bit, of course, different from the IT side. And why? Because the OT, the connectivity of OT, the danger is higher, is human life. Why? Because we have some of the plants hazardous material. So any kind of connectivity to the OT, it will be very cautious, very with a lot of thinking what they should do. So first of all, most of the times I will approve only if they have ICL laptops. First of all. Secondly, as I said, connectivity is through CyberArk. But sometimes there are big companies like Siemens and other big companies that want to give us support from far away, from Germany or from Netherlands or something like that. And you have to deal with it. So Siemens, they are very good. Of course, they are, the companies themselves, they are very secure, but you can never know who is the one that is connecting to you from his laptop that is bringing from himself. If he has been 2 days before, I don't know, traveling in Europe or in some place else. So any connectivity from the outside of Israel will be done through gateway. It will not be connecting directly to our servers in the OT. It will first of all have to connect to servers in the IT, we will see that everything is okay, that he is clean, and then we will redirect him to the server in the OT, of course, with CyberArk and all the measures that are being done. In the IT, it's more easy. What can happen? Something, as I said, firstly, laptop of ICL, reduce 60% of the threat. What we left with, let's say, 200 or in our case, 660 companies that have any kind of connectivity to the IT. But they will pass two-factor authentication, they will pass CyberArk, and they will be monitored what they are doing. At the end of it, you have to have, I'm not in the same way of thinking of what the technology is. I think the technology is more important than the other equilibrium. Why? Because it's not dependent to the malfunction of the human being. Human being can make a mistake and make a connectivity between 1 and 2, and to enter the threat, especially with social engineering. Social engineering, this is one of the biggest threat of third party. He's taking the phone, he's saying, I'm this and this and this, and convince you that he's the best IT people, that he can convince our people that he's IT of ICL, while he's not, of course, nothing to do with IT of ICL. So social engineering is one of the biggest threat to third party. That is the reason why I will count on technology more than Rotem, but it's okay. We have different approach. That's good. Never to be with one approach. It's a better way. To conclude the issue of IT and OT. OT is more challenging, more threat, and I would like to emphasize that in some of the plants I have regulation. And what is the new thing that Rotem referred to it is the innovation. Innovation, we have AI and machine learning. We have 200 startups that would like to come up from the cloud to the PLC. So what we have done is we went to RFI and RFP to several companies in Israel to give a solution from the cloud to the PLC, and it will happen in 3 months from now. That's it for now. Thank you. Now you are on mute.
Thank you very much. So let me ask you a question about your vision with regards to next generation optic network enabling industry 4. What's your thoughts on this? The two.
On what? On what again?
Next generation optic network enabling industry 4.0.
That's what I began with it. We will not be able to escape from the cloud to the PLC. We have to find a way to ensure and to verify, but yes, to enable connectivity from the cloud to the PLC. It will happen. We just have to do it safely. We can use, for example, blockchain. Think of it, blockchain. You can take the information and separate it to 7, 8, 10, 15 location and bring it again and see if it's connect safely. If it connects safely, it will be very difficult to do something in the middle. And of course, there are methods to check and to verify. But what I'm saying, let's give the industry to find a solution. Unidirectional connectivity like waterfall and other solutions, they were not there 15 years ago. Any kind of new, the EDR, or let's take the IDS in the OT. 10 years ago, there were no solution. So let's give the industry to find a solution for Industry 4.0, because we will have to find a solution to bring something that was after machine learning and AI back to the plant. So I prefer to be pioneer and not to wait. So I'm going out to the industry, and let's see what the industry will come with a solution. If there will be no solution, at least I try to have a solution. I will report to you in 4 months from now.
Okay, perfect. Josie, it seems like the supply chain cyber challenge is so endless as the larger chain of involved vendors and producers and components that it's tough to think that we can cover all the possible faults. What are the main activities you would point out following IEC's vast experience in the cyber battle?
Thank you, Jose. And first of all, if you allow me, I will connect it because you know you are asking different questions and they are very similar to the question you actually asked before because the subject is connected to everything. So to answer your question, first of all, just a word about the different approaches that Rotem presented and Dato presented. Let me say that I will come with the third approach, you know, and the third approach is positive for both. I agree with both of them. I don't think we should prioritize any of those aspects of people, and we should prioritize the process. And if it's a supply chain process, and there are different supply chain processes, includes. And I'm sure that it includes all of those things. It includes the people layer and the procedure layer and the technical layer. We should treat all of them. This is one thing. Second thing, and again, we heard it from Rotem, we heard from Dato. You know, it's impossible to say that you will actually deal and penetrate all the possible complication of a supply chain. So you have to focus. And one way of focus, and here is I would call it an embedded paradox. Because what is an embedded paradox? Dato talk about let's focus only, or let's focus mainly on the suppliers that are, let's say, critical to my organization, that are critical, and I fully agree with him because, you know, he talking about I don't know how many suppliers. in Israel Electric Corporation, we are talking about 270,000 different suppliers that the organization is working with. So to say that you will cover all of those with to give everybody a laptop and so, I think it's not possible. So what I'm saying, you have to focus. But where is the paradox? On the other hand, if you look at the adversaries are looking, I call it the easy penetrate point. They are looking for those maybe less significant supplier that are giving them the pathway to penetrate the company, to influence the company. So what we have done, and as I say, our approach is actually check the process. Yes, at the end of the day, the critical process or the critical tasks are the main, but check the whole process, how it is implemented. And if you are looking on different compromises that happen via the supply chain, okay, the supply chain at the end of the day, many of those compromises and attacks happen not via your most critical providers. And just to give an example, you all remember the penetration on a U.S. airport that was hit. The electricity systems were shut down. The penetration was via the supplier of their security cameras. That wasn't defined as a critical supplier for the airport aviation system. So what we are doing, we actually let's say model or draw the full process and then map out according to different one methodology I already mentioned. We map out the different points where we think that we should take care and deal with those suppliers. Second thing, and that talk about the solution of giving those suppliers different tools to connect to the company. So we are actually providing a product as a service that includes also a laptop to the different vendors, but it secures the whole chain with different 7 different gateways up to ability of the vendor, including the mechanism that Deto explained as a gateway. We use different mechanism, but at the end of the day, we provide a full security of vendor connecting to our organization. So this is second thing, and the third thing is actually connected more to what Rotem said to the people side. We know about many at least tries of supply chain attacks, and I have to admit, I cannot go to much details. I have to admit that 2 of them happened in Israel Electric. That actually the adversaries are using personal connection between employee in the organization and employee in one of the vendors that you are working with to penetrate your company. Okay, so just to give a clue what I'm talking about, a clue that the one employee that worked in our company, his spouse worked in vendor's company, and they sometimes send personal mails to each other from his office to her office, and this channel was used to attack the company. Okay, so if I say the basic thing from my best experience, map out the process, starting with the critical processes focus, but look in those critical processes for those non-critical elements that can be personal, that can be people, that can be process-wide and technology-wide. And then again, I have to say that I agree with Deto that one thing, you know, it's so big word and so complicated word that you must to chain your technology into this process to be able to actually control everything. So three points that I mentioned: remote access, fully controlled remote access, and as I say, we have a very good solution for it, general solution. Second thing is actually analyze process and not a simple point or single point of the target or of the second point. And third point is actually provide real education awareness to your people on the process points.
Thank you, Josie. I don't want to give you know, a negative feeling to the industry, but if we analyze, I mean, if we analyze the number of third-party providers, you were talking about 270,000 third parties. Okay, so the order of magnitude is 10 exponential 5. So if we think about those numbers, the number of employees of these organizations, that this is in the ballpark of between 10,000 and, you know, it's 10 exponential 5, 10 exponential 6, you know, the probability for a sophisticated attacker to breach an organization is 100%. There's no single, there is no, with those numbers. Look, also the levels of, you know, I mean, when we talk about culture, I mean, Rotem was touching upon that. The only thing we have learned along the 2000 latest years of history is that change in culture has a tremendous inertia. It takes ridiculous amount of time. And also, that's not work for some people. So you can change the culture and the approach on some people in a percentage of the guys. But across an organization with 100,000 people, 50, 60, or 70%, your change culture processes are going to fail. That's my personal view. I might be wrong, but that's my personal view.
Jose,
so with this information, I think the only solution is to assume that you're going to be breached, seriously breached, or you are actually, to be honest, that you have already been breached. That's the only, you know, a scenario for me that is acceptable, because the other stuff, and I understand that there are many vendors, there is a multi-billion industry, there is a lot of stuff. But if we are not serious in this, we are lying to ourselves. I'm lying to ourselves.
I like your optimism. You are very optimistic. That's very good. But
it's not about pessimism. It's not about pessimism.
But the side of being optimistic, that's good. Don't forget that our strategic is to detect. Okay, you have the prevention, it's very important, and you have the monitoring, and you have the two-factor, and you have everything. But at the end of it, technology to detect. And if somebody breached you, that you will be able, don't put one EDR, put two EDR, three EDR, one guard and 4 people on the roof. But at the end of it, to detect. And when you have to detect, is that you will be able to contain. And fourthly, to handle the situation. If you will not handle the situation, then you will lose. So it's not, the penetration is not the issue. It's not the issue. You have to make a lot of steps to stop that. The penetration will not be easy. But even if the penetration happens, it's not the end of the game. The game is not over. You have to detect, contain, and bring back the business to continuity with handling the event. At the moment you have a full approach, not forget, the third party is only one side of the cyber and the CISO responsibility. And the end of it is the threat. What is the threat? You remember all of us, at least from my point of view, ransomware is the most highest threat from my point of view. And the third party is one of the way of the ransomware to come inside to my organization. So I have to stop attacks and ransomware from coming to my organization by detecting and stop to monitor the event and to come back to life and to back to continuity as fast as I can But so it's not the issue of penetration. Penetration is only one step. If you detect on time, contain on time, everything is okay. Everything is okay. It's part of your business, it's part of your deal. And let's look at the process. As my Bible said, let's look at the process. The process is the importance, and you have a few milestones in the process. And you can, the moment you are handling the whole process, then you may be breached, you may be, but you should be detecting, and you should be containing, and you should be reacting. And of course, sometimes you lose, but you try not to be a loser. That is your function. Your function is a CISO, and the responsibility of Yossi is to protect the essence of IAC, Electricity Company of Israel. This is his responsibility. In order to do it, you have the process, man, people, and technology, and wisdom. Don't forget that behind the attack, there is person. There is 2 person, 5 person, but they are people. They have their mind, and we have our mind. It's a battle. It's like a shakmat.
Yeah.
So we are in a but it's not playground, because the outcome can be very damaged to the company. But they are not wiser than you. They are wise, but we are also wise. So we are in a battle. In a battle, you have to surprise. You have to surprise. I will not get to my surprise that we have in my organization, but we have a lot of surprises. So part of the thing is to have surprises. You know Indiana Jones. You remember Indiana Jones? There is when you enter
of course.
There are a few things. Always put Indiana Jones traps. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So one of the things that I really like about supply chain is that it's across of all the different type of things in the organization, specifically in industrial security. And there is a cool meme that running through the internet says, in one side of the corner, in a ring, one side of the corner, we have antivirus, firewalls, antivirus, and everything. And the other side, we have Dave. And it says on his shirt, human error. So this is one of the biggest problems that we need to approach, because in the end, the detect, the response, and all the things that we need to do with that approach, this is the people and the process. We need the technology. I'm not saying we need the technology. Technology is really important, but it's only a tool to help us provide better security. We can handle, if we're gonna say we do not have any technologies to support our security, we're still gonna have security. If we're only gonna have technology, we're not gonna have security. So this is the balance here. It's a 3-column building. That's it.
You know, Jose, just one second to emphasize something. I think that we should clarify the relation between what we call supply chain, because what Deto described is actually the standard point. Doesn't mean, it doesn't matter if it is a supply chain or any other ability to insert some hardness into your organization. Then you have to have a proper mechanism how you deal with such a thing of containment and everything. And as I said in my previous presentation 1 hour ago, one of the things that is neglected usually is the recovery things. But don't forget, when we are talking about supply chain is the platform to actually penetrate or to import into your company some bad things. This is a supply chain. It's not the ability to after it doesn't include the ability of lateral movement and all those things that you have to invest in addition. It's the first thing is actually a platform altogether. And this platform, and I agree with you, is endless. It's an endless platform. But again, before going to deal what I'm doing when I am hit or when something happens in the company, there are ways how you overcome endlessness to a specific point. And you know, we call it a turtle model. The turtle, as you know, they don't actually fight all the world to protect themselves. They actually close themselves into a shell, okay, and eliminated many of the attacks. Not all of them, but many of them. The same we should do. We should first of all create an environment, and it's possible with today's tools like AI and everything. We are analyzing frequently the different inputs from different sources about the vendors and the sub-vendors, and trying to protect ourselves first of all. After they succeeded to penetrate, and yes, there is a probability that they will succeed. You have to build, if it is all the mechanism in your organization, how you deal with somebody that already succeeded in some way to penetrate, how you discover him, how you protect yourself, how you find him in his way to the target, and so on and so on. This is additional story. You have to make additional roundtable to deal with.
I want to say something just to
just before you jump in here, Rotem.
Okay.
Sorry for interrupting. I would like to thank Deto for joining the discussion. He needs to leave the conversation now. So Deto, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us and with the community. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, and I will deal with Rotem afterwards regarding technology or not technology. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Please, Rotem, go ahead.
I want to say that one of the biggest processes, important processes that need to be approached, especially after the recovery phase, is incorporate lesson learned. And this is something that many organizations does not even think of, because improvement of the processes is one of the building stones that we can harden the security. And if we are not going to do that, and if we are not going to take the lesson that we learned from a real life incident that happened in the organization, we're not going to have a really any type of security. I know the different type of companies make a drill that have like tabletop or maybe a red, blue or something like that. And they try to take some of that to their own company. It's not gonna look like that. It's something probably gonna be completely different. And if you're one of the luckiest guys or companies that already have an incident, a big incident, try to speak about the lesson learned and incorporate that with all the different type of policies and procedures. It's really that important.
I fully agree that processes are absolutely critical. I think that when we talk about, for example, a massive issue that is phishing, I am the school of thought that we shouldn't allow, the processes shouldn't allow that somebody clicking on a phishing email might compromise the organization. I understand that there is an industry talking about awareness and all those things. And I understand that the awareness is super important. But again, I'm an engineer. I have been trained as an engineer. If you think in terms of numbers, if there are 100,000 people in an organization, you can conduct all the awareness programs you might want. There is always going to be 10% of those guys clicking on these phishing emails day in, day out. Even if you kill them, it is going to happen. We know that, and that's a fact. Probably it's not 10%, it's 8%, 5%, whatever. But the thing is that the intelligent guys, the criminals, which are criminals, but are intelligent, a lot of them, okay, those guys are going to find that 7%, and that's called automation. So they are going to launch millions of campaigns, and they are going to find those guys, and they are going to get in. So the processes might not allow an organization to be compromised just because somebody clicks on a phishing email. I think if we fight the battle in that way, assuming that all those programs are people are gonna, it's not gonna work. If you have been chasing, I receive, my organization is irrelevant. I am not Israel Electric. I receive on a daily basis a lot of phishing emails, and some of them are super sophisticated. The only way for me not to basically being compromised is I don't open anything. I just don't open anything. Just don't open it. Okay, so is it possible for a big organization? It's not. Organization needs to communicate, needs to connect, needs to engage. So that's my personal view on that. But
Jose, I'm going to say that our topic is the supply chain. And one of the things that is a really big problem in many companies is that I, for example, provide services for many companies, really big companies, medium companies. And in many of them, I have my own account inside of the company. They provide me an email account. They provide me a Teams account, Zoom account, whatever, so I can communicate with them in a secure manner. This is really, really important. But no one actually provide me the knowledge of what to do regarding the security, phishing, and etc. So now that I'm thinking about that, I'm a security guy. I'm working in security. I'm saying that phishing mails is not fair. It's truly not fair, because we grow on the basic that email is safe, email is good, email is something nice, and something in the world, in the path, something went wrong, and it's look really bad now. And this is one of the biggest attack vector to organizations, and we need to deal with that. And one of the things that, if we're talking about supply chain, we need to address the guys that I'm looking at ICL, I'm looking at Yossi, I'm looking at other places that provide those services to other people. We need to provide them also the awareness of what we have in our team, and sending them phishing mails as campaign, it's not enough. We need to bring them to our company, sit them on a computer, bring them to seminars, in-person seminar, because there is no replacement for that. Sorry for that, but there is no replacement for in-person. Look at the person, look at the instructor in the eyes, and better understand. And the instructor actually can understand and see if you understand or not. If you not understand, you can explain again. This is truly helpful. So if you're in a company that have a lot of people connecting to your account, with account in your company, and you're not supporting them with awareness campaign, do an awareness campaign that is not only on emails. This is important.
Oh, can I add quickly here, Rotem, to your point, lad? Jose is right. Yeah, we can do a lot of cybersecurity awareness training, but we still have 7% of people who click this email. So as an engineer, I would say I work on site. So we apply zero trust, which means that the engineer laptop will never be connected to the email. So we apply technology, we segment networks. So if this laptop is connecting to critical infrastructure, it will never be connected to the email. So in my opinion, phishing campaigns, cybersecurity awareness is good, but we still need to apply zero trust technology. And if we have a critical infrastructure, it should never be connected to the internet. So we need to segment by zones. And then, as Deto said as well, for vendors, for example, I'm a vendor. When I come to my customer site, I always use their dedicated laptop, which is not connected to the internet, which is connected to only to the task which I have to perform. This is what I would like to add.
Sultana, thank you. But this is only related to critical infrastructure. Most companies are not critical infrastructure. They are manufacturing, they have a manufacturing floor, if it's dairies, if it's plastic and molding or something else. This is the biggest market of industrial equipment in the world. And in many places like that, they do not have the budget even to buy laptop for those specific vendors that came in, because if we want to say something true, the software is really expensive. I don't know why Siemens, Schneider, and all the other just sell it in really high numbers, because we cannot do a really true security if we do not have the licenses to provide for each type of service like that. And I'm sorry, but this is one of the things that only critical infrastructure, and I'm sorry, water is not in that specific sector, but all the other critical infrastructure have a lot of money to have those specific measures. And this is something that also need to be addressed. Yes, thank you.
Sultana, let me stay with you for a second. So you touch upon this in your latest intervention, but what should companies do to de-risk cyber threat in the supply chain? Do you want to add anything else about that?
Yeah, that answered for many questions. I would like to add here that we have to look in two different lenses. So are you buyer or are you supplier? So if you're a buyer, or we can say asset owner, you have to understand what kind of technologies or technology tools deployed in your environment and where exactly it's deployed and what extent. So I'm from critical infrastructure. So I would say SBOM, software bill of materials tool, would help with this. And if you're a supplier, the suppliers need to do a better job of understanding what software components go into their technology offering, keeping those components up to date and ensuring that only the required functionalities of those components are enabled. So from supplier perspective, they have to make sure that their development and update environments are secured. So this is, I would like to add. And another point I would like to add here is, I'm from vendor, but if I'm from asset owner, I would follow the rule, one strike and you're out. So it should start from procurement to clearly define to the vendor in legal language, in short.
Thank you. Josie, please go ahead.
Look, I have some disagreements about different things that I heard here, because I understand that the traditional way is not connect, not to, but it will not hold in the future anyway, because at the end of the day, and Deto talk about his some kind of experiment of connecting PLC to cloud, but I want maybe to surprise him also. There are already infrastructures that are connected to cloud. I agree with Saltanat that in current state, the isolation is almost must, because we don't have the solution. But if we think not far away, this will be the situation. In my opinion, the local computer facilities of organization, even big organization, will disappear. And because even utility, like for example, is electric utilities, that is not a huge organization, but it's a big organization. At the end of the day, it's not in her. It is interest. Their interest is to produce electricity and to deal with electricity, and not with computer centers and manage computer centers and hold hundreds or thousands of people. So the reality goes to something that will be more commoditized, more like communication, so we have to prepare for this, and to prepare for this is actually creating the right mixture between all those different things that we talk about. And I would say gradually relieve the constraints that, again, I agree. I would today not open everything to cloud or to public communication, to internet, but this is the direction, and we have to create gradually. But if you ask me very fast, very quickly, because it's not far away the situation, actually the way that the supply chain and all our different critical and non-critical infrastructure will be in an environment of cloud, public communication, and everything. And if we are talking about control system and IoT, and they are already there. Most of I will talk about electrical system. For example, most of the smart metering programs are running on public communication. They are not using on public cellular communication. And I don't know if you are familiar, but in electric industry, smart meter at the end is the control system of the low voltage networks. So it's already here. And we have to how we deal with this situation, including the vendor and supply chain abilities and additional things. And again, as I said, it's a mixture of technology, procedure, people all together. About your remark, I don't have experience with a company of 200,000 employees, not yet. I am still young, so maybe I will have in the future. But I can say one thing. In Israel Electric, when we first started our fishing training and awareness a few years ago, about 7 or 8 years ago, actually, we have from 13,000 employees, about 70% click the mouse, okay? 70%. In the last 3 years, the rate is 0. 13,000 employees, with all our tries of fishing and everything, nobody clicked the button. So I agree with you, it's strange, but with real attitude, with real education, a real understanding, explaining, not orders, but explaining to people different things, professional and everything, it works. So I don't know if it works for 100,000 or 200,000, but for 30,000 it works.
Yeah, but let me quickly tell you something here, Josie. I have been working in my career for 2 very senior Israeli managers. Mm-hmm. And what I have learned is the following. I have also been working in very large organizations, some of the largest telcos in the world. And what we see in Israel in terms of mindset and culture is not the same culture we see in Spain, or we see in Brazil, or we see in Europe. Is not the same. I've been working in the US, and what we see in Florida is not the same of what we see in New York. So changing that mindset that we have in Israel that has been created for a long time due to many ingredients. I mean, long time ago, I was discussing with the head of innovation in BNP Paribas in Paris. I asked him the question, do you think that the innovative environment that we have in Israel might be cloned in Spain, for example? Might be cloned. Could we clone that success story here? He told me, listen, I don't believe that. Because whenever you visit Israel and they take you to the Valley of the Negev and all those places, Beersheba and things like that, to meet the military, all those guys, right? All the interesting components. We don't have those many components in many other places. We don't have that. So cloning that mindset is not going to happen overnight, even if we try to implement the process you might want. Even if we try to do that, I worked for Telefonica for a few years across all the different operations in Latin America and in Spain, and that mindset, it's not in every single company. I'm not saying that they are not doing well, that they are not super companies. They are, but it's about the mindset, and the mindset is very different. The mindset you tell me, and I have total respect for the numbers the information you provided, but I think, and actually, the facts prove that we are seeing all kinds of companies being hacked and breached left and right. And that was talk about detection, and I fully agree on the different layers. But listen, the statistics are that big companies with massive resources, multi-million or sometimes multi-billion cybersecurity budgets, takes them 200 plus, 250, 220, 270 to detect sophisticated APTs. So the detection phase, wow. So I'm not pessimistic about this. I'm just saying is that if we analyze the facts, wow, this is a massive challenge.
It's a challenge, but I agree with you that it depends also on the culture of different nations and different entities and organizations. But at the end of the day, we are not talking about 1 or 0 state. Anyway, if you effort this right, you lower the level of the risk. This is the intention. It's never, even in IEC and what I have described, the risk is not 0. It's lowered, and I'm saying this is the way to fight it, and I think we should gain all those abilities today actually to fight, and there are a lot of abilities to do it. But still, on the other side, there are very talented people that choose to be on the black side, and we have to fight this situation. But if you invest, you can lower significantly the risk and the vulnerabilities you are exposed to.
Wonderful, Yossi. Let me just stay with you for last question. Could you specify the main mistakes we are making in our cyber defense activities that open a wide door to the cyber adversaries?
You know, we actually talk about it the rest of it, but I will say, and I'm talking about like Saltanat said about the critical infrastructure, and it's true also with IT, even more sophisticated. And it's actually providing ability to our vendors to connect directly to our systems. Now, in critical infrastructure, actually, it's part of the ability to have maintenance and guarantee of the vendor to your systems. So what I'm saying that in our analysis is one of the where we call it, you actually open a direct path to the heart of the information, but non-critical as well. The same with, for example, with SAP, okay, SAP. With SAP, if you are talking about SAP, you know, if you have problem, you have to guarantee to SAP a direct access to your production system of SAP. So actually, this is one of the biggest mistakes that we are doing. We are not controlling them, and it's true. We have a full let's say confidence in the vendors like Siemens, like ABB, not everything, but again, at the end of the day, there is a person that is sitting in front of the station that is connecting to our system. So this is one of the biggest mistakes that we are, and we see it. You know, it's not so many times published, but many of the compromisers use this pass that is actually vendor pass to penetrate and to install different things. This is one mistake. The second mistake, and I will finish with this one. Actually, the second mistake that we are facing that usually you are requiring during your processes, your tender processes with vendors, different technical things and less procedural things. Procedural things that are touching cyber. Okay, so what we have done in IEC, and I think it should be even. I'm usually very honest man, but it should be learned even. What should be actually in the appendix of cyber appendix that you provide in your tenders as a requirement from cyber, and it includes technical requirements and different requirements, but it should also include procedural and regulative and standard improvements. And if you don't do it, or for example, it should, we require in our tenders that the vendor knows that if he want to connect to our company, he has to use our system. He is not able to connect with it. So all those things, this is the second mistake. If you are looking on different tenders that I was exposed, you see that the cyber appendix or cyber requirements are very technical. The procedures are totally missing, and the whole is in the procedures and not in the technology.
Okay, thank you, Yossi. So I would like to go around the table, you know, just to give you guys the opportunity to kind of wrap up the discussion. Okay, we have covered a fascinating topic. There has been a lot of interaction. We have learned a lot. Please, Saltanat, do you want to share one or two thoughts about this? Kind of your key takeaways.
Okay, about supply chain, I would say it's really complicated. And first, it should start, I agree with Yossi, with procurement language. Everything starts from there. But this is my main key takeaway.
Thank you, Saltanat. Appreciate it. Roten, same for you. The same question was for you. What are your key takeaways from this discussion?
I think one of the things that is more important than it's to start the process in the company. Literally start a steering committee in the company, starting to the discussion about what is needed, who is the vendors, what is the impact, because we are now understanding that the lower the produce zone, that the bigger the risk or the impact. Okay, even for safety. Yes, I said safety because security can produce safety issues. I have many stories about that, but it's not the time now. I understand. And if I can give some small tips, I know that we're providing some of the services, but I think that this is a basic things that companies need to understand. A compliance is important, but someone actually needs to do the job. So we want to take all the companies that we work with, all the third parties. Okay, we want to measure the current security maturity level that they have, according to their size and impact on our company. Okay, we need to map all the critical gaps. This is really important on their systems. Okay, we need to support them. Even if we are a company that have a lot of different third parties, support your vendors. It's important, either by providing them more money. I know this is mind-blowing, but give them more money because it's your responsibility. Give them. I heard about companies that already take me as someone that need to help their third parties, because it's really that important. So we need to support them with the mitigation phase. This is something that we cannot remove from the table. And after we finish all those phases, we need to start all over again and re-measure them again. So this is the cycle of supply chain that we need to take. I'm gonna say to all of our third parties, but it's not really possible to have the diner and people that are not specifically close to the process itself. But try to think about companies that provide you support in the process itself, in the produce level itself, touching on equipment like Saltanat, for example, that is a vendor for doing that. Try to work with them. What are the impact? Try to understand the risk. Try to understand what they actually can do in your network and start from there. And in the end, I'm gonna start a steering committee and a discussion in the corporate. This is priceless information.
Thank you, Rotter. Josie, a final thought for the discussion? Be careful, you are mute.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. It was very interesting and dynamic discussion. I just would summarize in one sentence. It's very challenging, but I'm very glad that there are many additional subjects that are not less challenging than this one, and because of it, our world is interesting, and I'm happy it will continue like it, and we will win the war at the end.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me take this opportunity to thank you, Saltanat, for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. Rotten, it's really a pleasure. And Josie, of course, I mean, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. Okay, so you can go like 10 minutes to the socializing zone, because we are about to jump into another fascinating keynote covering the topic of boosting cyber physical security capability through cyber ranges, OT vaults. So and in the next slide, I'm gonna ask you, Josie, what do you think about cyber ranges for OT? But that's gonna be in another discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to leave in a moment. So it was excellent as usual. Thank you very much, Jose.
Thank you very much.
And Jose, thank you also for the good work that you're doing in the cybersecurity. Of course, thank you.
I really appreciate that, Roden. Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jose.
Thank you, Saltanat.
For a great panel discussion.
Thank you, Saltanat. Appreciate it.